lot of people say, well, that's because it's not a good time. If lenders aren't financing it, that means there must not be a good time to do it. No, it's the exact opposite. Because lenders aren't financing the building of new housing communities right now, there's a lot less people buying land, which means land is selling at significant discounts. That means that if you started construction projects today because nobody else is, because they can't get financing, that means that by the time you're delivering units into the market, there's going to be almost nothing that you're competing with. So there's going to be a major lack of supply and incredible demand.
What would you do if someone has, 3 million and they're considering, going with DLP into the lending, building, or community fund? What would you say on that?
I think what's interesting, and I gave two kind of different scenarios there of situations, but I could go through a few more, and based upon what happens in the market, based upon what the dynamics are, our approach and our is to be able to be nimble and adjust based on where there's opportunity and where we can create outsized returns. And so none of us know exactly how things will play out in 2024. Those are a couple scenarios that we see and that we're seeing today. But we'll adjust and find opportunities based upon, what's going on in the market. The Building Community Fund, which is our fund. So our housing fund is our fund that owns existing housing communities. So that's where we'd come into existing communities in a couple of the ways I just described. Our building community fund is investing in building brand new housing communities, and that's a fund that benefits a lot from environments like we're in today, and largely because of, and a lot of this that we're talking about is driven by financial markets and driven by what's going on with financing and interest rates is the obvious element there. But I had two top bankers from one of the top 10 banks in America in my office earlier this week, and I made sort of a joke, I guess I'll call it. It wasn't that funny, but I made a joke of that, that all lenders, all banks seem to go to this, and I can pick on bankers because I own a bank, but all bankers seem to go to the same real estate, the same conference and every year, and they all come out with the exact same decisions, right? They're all like sort of like lemons. They all do the same thing. And I said, it seems like all the bankers went to the same conference that said, commercial real estate is bad, and especially construction lending is bad, right? And the two bankers quickly said to me, "Yeah, we went to that conference." Right? And they knew I was, being facetious, I guess is the word.
Mhm.
That obviously there isn't an actual conference where that they all made that decision together, but they all follow the same direction, and a lot of that's driven by regulations. And so virtually every bank in America today, all the bigger ones, aren't really funding. They'll tell you differently, but they're not doing commercial real estate. They're not doing construction financing. So when lenders pull out of financing a certain investment model, well, then values go down. When people can't buy land or can't develop new housing because they can't get access to financing, well, that means there's a lot less people buying land and starting new construction projects. And a lot of people say, well, that's because it's not a good time. If lenders aren't financing it, that means there must not be a good time to do it. No, it's the exact opposite. Because lenders aren't financing the building of new housing communities right now, there's a lot less people buying land, which means land is selling at significant discounts. That means that if you started construction projects today because nobody else is, because they can't get financing, that means that by the time you're delivering units into the market, there's going to be almost nothing that you're competing with. So there's going to be a major lack of supply and incredible demand. So we see right now buying land and starting construction project is a phenomenal time, because by the time we're coming out of the ground, or I should say leasing up and finishing construction on these properties, call it in 2025, 2026, there'll be very little other products start coming into lease up at that time. In addition, because there's less projects coming out into construction, there's less competition for the best contractors. There's less competition for labor. There's less demand for materials. So we're getting lower labor costs. We're getting the best contractors. We're getting them fighting for our business, and we're getting lower supply costs. We're not going back to 2019 costs of construction, but we're seeing 7 to 10% lower costs than we were seeing, 6 to 12 months ago. And we're picking up land at half of what it was selling for 6 to 12 months ago. So those are all reasons why the building community fund is doing great. Couple that with the fact that, as mentioned, demand is really great, occupancy is really great. The fundamentals of rental housing are really, really strong.